Alright, so how does trauma impact our relationships? Now, trauma doesn't just affect the individual who's experienced the trauma, but it's like a rippled effect. It touches all of their relationships with their husband, their wife, their partner, their children, and their closest family. And then we can start to think about how it impacts the rest of our environment, the people we work with, if we're able to work. But one of the most profound impacts of trauma is the heightened fear response. So for someone with a history in trauma, the world almost seems full of potential threats. So it can lead to an almost constant state of alertness or anxiety even. And this state makes ordinary relationship conflicts feel like major threats all of the time. And it triggers defensive or aggressive responses. Now, trust becomes a total battlefield for anyone who has suffered past trauma. Trauma can make it exceptionally difficult to build or maintain trust, like the cornerstone of any really happy relationship. But for instance, someone who survived childhood abuse might find it really hard to believe that affection doesn't come with strings attached, or that it isn't a prelude to being hurt again. So what happens is our relationships become turbulent. So this struggle with fear and trust often leads to problematic patterns of attachment. On the one end of the spectrum, we have anxious attachment. So an individual with this pattern craves closeness and reassurance from others all the time. And it can really start to feel suffocating for the partner, or even friendships. I know of a lot of friendships who have ended because of this attachment syndrome. So they might constantly fear abandonment, or rejection, or that it could even lead to behaviors where we push other people away. So ironically, it fulfills their own fear of being left alone. But then on the other end of the spectrum is avoidance attachment, where people protect themselves from the pain of potential betrayal or loss, or we keep people at arm's length. So this can ultimately result in people feeling like we're cold or uninterested in intimacy, and not because they don't desire connection, but because they feel deeply afraid of what the vulnerability of that attachment will bring. So both patterns are just simply protection mechanisms. It's a way in which we deal with that deep-seated fears that trauma has instilled in us. So what is the brain chemistry and trauma? Now, when we face danger, our brains have a built-in alarm system, and it's designed to protect us. So this system is largely centered around two parts of the brain, the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. So the amygdala acts like a lookout. It's constantly scanning for threats, it's scanning for danger, and it triggers our body's emergency response, our fight, our flight response, or fawn in particular. So this isn't a conscious choice, it's automatic, it's lightning fast, it's a reaction designed to keep us safe. Now the prefrontal cortex is like the brain's wiser older brother. It helps us think things through, make decisions, control our emotions. And under normal circumstances, it even elevates the amygdala's alarm signals, and it decides whether they're legitimate or not. But if the prefrontal cortex concludes that there's no danger, it sends a message down to deactivate, to calm down. Let's just sort it out. However, trauma messes with the whole system. So imagine your amygdala is like a smoke detector. It becomes very overly sensitive, and it goes off at the slightest hint of smoke or a trigger, even when there's no real fire. So it's misjudging our environment around us. So at the same time, trauma weakens the prefrontal cortex's ability to turn off the smoke alarm. So the result is that the brain is constantly on edge, it's constantly reactive, it perceives threats where it doesn't, and we struggle to regulate our emotions. So how do we fix this? In the trauma recovery method program, we deal with and look for the root cause of our pain. We look at the root cause of why we're reacting and behaving, what's happened to us. We look at your past, and we have a huge toolkit that we use to help the brain to desequence these terrible things that have happened to us, to reprocess these feelings, emotions, behaviors, and reactions, and to upload a new way of thinking. That's far better for us. We take that anxiety, we put it on the naughty step, and we allow it and we make it stand its time, and then we deal with it. We have a systematic approach that brings huge comfort and relief for our clients. So if you want to know more, please reach out to us. Put a message for me underneath this live today, and I'll get back to you. Now, wherever you are, have a fabulous day. Bye.